You're welcome to the Policy Council. My name is Okwemi Agbaje. Today we will talk about waterways, transportation and regulation in Lagos State. We look at the issues of infrastructure, of safety, and the future outlook of the sector, and what role waterways can play in transportation, not only in Lagos State, but in Nigeria. Enjoy the program. You're welcome back. It's still the Policy Council. My guest is the Managing Director of the Lagos State Waterways Authority. That's the agency charged with regulation and infrastructure in respect of waterways transportation in Lagos State. He used to work in the oil sector, he's worked in Chevron, he's worked in Texaco overseas, and for some time now, he's been the Managing Director of this agency. Mr. Yinka Marino, you're welcome to the Policy Council.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so first of all, let's contextualize water and transport in Lagos State. Why is it important for us to have a system for waterways transportation? Why is waterways important as a means of transportation in Lagos State?
Well, I think historically, the state itself is made up of islands. And historically, it was the only means to move around the state. People forget in the old days, the Lagos Island used to stay away from the mainland. And then there was Ekpe on the other end. So really to cut across the state before the advent of roads and bridges.
Indeed, the Qatar Bridge and so were more very recent developments.
Yes, it used to be and has always been still the oldest means of which people move from one place to the others. Now, more recently, we have a lot of, with the population explosion within the city and the infrastructure of the roads not being able to catch up with the traffic situation we have, which has now cost, and the state government is looking seriously into the issue of an alternative means by which Lagosians can go around major cities. And it is a point of reference to note that places like Bangkok and other places that have waterways within their metropolis all use water transportation very well.
Okay, so let's talk about LASWA itself. How was it created? What are its functions? How is it structured?
It was passed into law by the Assembly in 2008. I joined it in 2010. The idea of LASWA is to regulate all waterways transport, all waterways vessels, or we could say anything that moves on water, we regulate it. Now, in terms of our function is to encourage that environment for private sector to drive the ferry business. And now ultimately we started with passenger traffic. We're looking at cargo traffic as we go along. Cargo being that you can carry more goods by water than by land. For example, one barge can carry the same thing 120 trucks can carry. So ultimately, we haven't totally utilized the extent of our water.
Interesting. So, give us an idea of the structure of the organization and maybe the directorate so that we can have an insight into the broad range of your remits within the broad area of waterways transportation. Well, so you deal with infrastructure, you deal with this, you deal with that.
The organization looks at the whole scope of the waterways. We start off with first, you identify routes. We channelize the routes in terms of the routes are dredged to make it navigable. After we navigate it, after it's dredged, now we've started putting navigational buoys in the waterways, which will be like your BRT lane on water, so that even the novice who is going into boat for the first time will see those as water, like road signs on waterways. That was started. We've done one in the Ojo area. We're starting the one from VI to Ikorodu. That should be up and running by the end of this month. Now we have the waterways itself goes from the island to Ikorodu, as you know, all the way into Badagry, into the Ojo area, into Ekpe area. So even as far as entering through K2 to mile 12, the waterway stretches all that extent. Now we have jetties placed in most areas within the state. I think we have about 57 jetties under Lagos State. Now, those jetties, we've reviewed most of our landings at the jetties, because one of the issues with the waterways which made it difficult before was to have a seamless transition between the water transport and land transport, which brings us to the intermodal transport system in which the state is pushing forward. Intermodal in that you would soon have the opportunity to go between two different modes of transport, where you're going depends on where you live and how quickly you want to get there. So we've changed our jetty structure. Those are part of the things the authority has been able to do. So now we're now more into floating pontoons. Okay. And we say floating because it takes into the rise and fall of the water tides. In the old days, we just used to have the concrete jetties. And when the tide was low, it was impossible to get off it. So now all those are changed around the state. You'll be seeing floating pontoons in most places that you have. Then the other things we've done is we have terminals. We have terminals in Ikorodu, Badore, Osborne, Mile 12, and some other ones will come up. Now, we have transition zones within those terminals where we have eateries, ATM, and other facilities have been put in those terminals for the pleasure of the people passing through those zones.
Excellent. We're just starting this conversation with Mr. Yinka Marino, Managing Director of the Lagos State Waterways Authority. We'll be right back.
My name is Femi Durojayi. Welcome to the new Lagos, where things are improving every day. I work on the island and live on the mainland. But that's no longer a problem. With improved roads, I get to work faster. Sometimes I even leave my car and use the BRT bus, which is comfortable, fast, efficient, and reliable. After a hard day's work, the nights and evenings are even more fun. The streets are better lit, and the city is more secure, so I can catch my phone in peace. I pay my taxes because I want to continue enjoying the good things a big modern city like our Lagos brings. So it's my taxes that makes them real. Have you paid your tax?
Pay your tax. It's your civic responsibility. It's your duty. It's the law.
You're welcome back to the Policy Council. My guest is Mr. Marino, Yinka Marino of the Lagos State Waterways Agency. So we were talking about what you're doing, jetties and channelization and road signs, as if we could call that, call it that. Now, we know there's this debate between yourselves and the National Inland Waterways Authority over control of, essentially over control of regulation of the waterways. What's that debate about?
I think it's defined in which waters we're looking at. Our main focus is the inland waters of Lagos State. Okay. Our main focus is between moving Lagosians between point A of Lagos to point B of Lagos. Our main focus is to decongest our road network. Our main focus is to use the most natural source of resource that we have within our state in terms of tourism, in terms of moving our people around, and in terms of what it does to the environment, because like I said earlier, it is easier to move larger things via our waterways than going by our roads. Now, you know, like we all know, we have gridlocks within most parts of our city. Now, the thrust of the government was to use the alternative means of the waters within the Lagos metropolis for Lagosians to be able to have access. Now, with the National Inland Waterways, most of the activities, I think it's around the Marina area. We have areas in Ketu, Ekpe, Badagry, where we've been able to now successfully push the movement within the waterways up from when I joined from 300,000, we're doing about 1.6 million people a month
1.6 million
through the waterways on a daily basis, which is the thrust of why LASTWA was created.
So that controversy with NIWA, as far as you're concerned, is something. How will it be resolved?
It's in court.
Okay.
It's in court right now, so I will let the
judicial system will take care of that.
And take care of that.
Okay, the other controversy in quotes about water, we've had these recent incidences of ferries or boats sinking in Majidun, one notorious one, another one around the Mile 2 area or Festac area, if I remember correctly. why is that happening? And how do we, because if we want to grow transport on water, if we want people to turn to water, it has to be safe.
Yeah, firstly, let me first say one or two things. First, the agency inspects every vessel that comes into the Lagos State waters for safety equipment and for seaworthiness. Now, that test is done 3 times a year for every vessel that is within the Lagos State waters. Secondly, there is a time limit on waterways travel, mainly from sunup to sundown. Okay. Those incidences that we noticed somewhere were after 8 o'clock at night, which is quite unfortunate because they are not supposed to be on the waterways at that time. And LASWA regulates between those hours and then LASWA stops work. Now, the one at Majidun that happened within working hours, as I will put it, we found out through investigation that it actually hit a log. These are the loggers that pull their logs all the way to the Ebutemeta area. Now, those logs are tied up and it could stretch for 2 kilometers, 3 kilometers. Now, when 1 or 2 of them fall loose, it sits in the waterways and it's not easy to see those logs within the water. Now, we have addressed and we have having meetings and consultations with their organizations on safe passage within the waterways. The other part is to now ensure and enforce that most people wear their life vest. A life jacket is what one of our laws is the first thing we tell you about your own safety within the waterways, because it keeps you afloat. It keeps you afloat so you can be rescued. You are guaranteed not to sink with your life vest on. So to that regard and to that extent, about last month, even the state when distributing out life jackets, about 2,000 we've done in the Ojo area. I know we have about 5,000. We are going to Ekpe, we are going to Badagry. And like the state governor said, all our ferry operators, it's a requirement for them to have it. For the others that don't have, the state is taking it up as a social corporate responsibility to its own citizens and the people within the area of the riverine area to ensure and try and promote that they get used to wearing the life vest.
Excellent. Let's take another time out. We're understanding issues around water, transportation, the regulation. Next up, we'll talk about infrastructure and what LASWA is doing in that regard. We'll be right back.
My name is Femi Durojai. Welcome to the New Lagos, where things are improving every day. I work on the island and live on the mainland. But that's no longer a problem. With improved roads, I get to work faster. Sometimes I even leave my car and use the BRT bus, which is comfortable, fast, efficient, and reliable. After a hard day's work, the nights and evenings are even more fun. The streets are better lit, and the city is more secure. So I can catch my phone in peace. I pay my taxes because I want to continue enjoying the good things a big modern city like our Lagos brings. So it's my taxes that makes them real. Have you paid your tax?
Pay your tax. It's your civic responsibility. It's your duty. It's the law.
You're welcome back to my conversation with Mr. Yinka Marino, a former oil industry worker, a mechanical engineer, attended Queen's Mary University in London and studied mechanical engineering, and also a master's degree in information systems. So he knows about engineering, about safety, about all of those things. So let's talk about infrastructure, given that you're an engineer. You've hinted at some of that, but I want us to go deep into all the infrastructural requirements of waterways and what you're doing in that regard in terms of jetties, channels, and all of that.
Yes, thank you for that. In terms of jetties, what we've done is the state has terminals in certain parts of the city, and then we have jetties. Terminals, when we have a large terminal building, like I said earlier, that accommodates other facilities like your ATMs, your eateries, and co. Now, at those terminals, we are now going to have fuel dumps at them. Because part of the things you mentioned about safety, which hampered our waterways in the old days, was boats being fueled by petrol stations inland. So the logistics for a boat operator to get his fuel from the petrol station via whatever means he uses to get to the water then start filling up petrols, and then we're trying to stop jerry cans and all those being used. So at the terminals now, there will be fuel dumps. Now those fuel dumps will take care of boating operators, so I will suspect we'll have petrol and diesel engine and diesel at those dumps, because we have those two cadre of vessels within the waterways. So at the Ikorodu terminal, Mile 2 terminal, Osborne terminal, Badore terminal, we will have those fuel dumps. We already have at Ijegun and the Butiojo. We're about to make them all operational. Now, I mentioned earlier we have changed jetty systems and styles to floating. So there's a floating at Butiojo and Ijegun, but that's near, if you know where Alaba Market is where the Butiojo one is, which was commissioned by the governor about 2 months ago. So that's fully up as well. So the terminals themselves, and the one in Ikorodu will take 200 cars odd, a bus stop. It has access for physically challenged people to get in and out. Those are the new inventions coming into the system, because the state now appreciates that it has been impossible for our physically challenged in moving around the city. So even the boats we are retrofitting them out to have that leeway for physically challenged people to go in and out of our terminals. That is one. So secondly, we are building up jetties in Ibeshe. I know that we are revamping some of the old jetties which were built by Lagos State Rural, Ministry of Rural, for the rural areas. We are revamping the one at Ibeshe. We're about to start something in Okeafa, which is near Ejigbo area. And so they will have water transportation coming out of that end. We're working towards opening up the waterways in K2 area going towards Mile 12. So ultimately, there will be a jetty at Mile 12. Now, all these waterways are dredged by the state government. We do about at least to 4 meters deep to make sure our channels are navigable, not only, like I said, for passenger traffic. Ultimately, we are looking at cargo traffic as well. And we already have 1 or 2 industries who are already talking to the state government on how to move their cargo in and out of the state, which will decongest some of the problems we have around the Apapa and the 2 main ports that we have. If you can have cargo movement moving out of those places, and like I said earlier, to 1 big barge, you need about 120 trucks. So environmentally, it's better to move cargo via the waterways. You use, and then the road maintenance as well would help ultimately to reduce road maintenance cost. So we are looking towards those little things, and as we go towards Lekki Trade Free Zone 2, we are hoping to open up the channel there for access of cargo movement between those 2 places,
to the
free trade zone as well, because that would help to decongest going through, because you have to go through VI and all those going along the Ekpe Expressway. So all those are part of why there's a strategy in place to accommodate the future plans of within the waterways. So the waterways have started mainly on passenger traffic, but cargo traffic has already started too.
Okay, excellent. Let's take our final time out. I'm talking with Mr. Marino of Lagos State Waterways Agency, and we are understanding the plans and programs for water transportation and regulation in Lagos State. We'll be right back.
My name is Onyema Kinzago. I live in Lagos, where things are getting better every day.
Our school has just been renovated.
And they give us free notebooks too. Going to school is easier and safer for students like me because I can cross the highway using the footbridge. And I use the BRT bus, which is fast, convenient, and free for students like me. I enjoy looking at the beautiful streets on my way to school. And the many street signs tell me where exactly I am. When I get to Basic 12, the government will pay the fees for my GCE and NECO examinations. I am happy. My mom and dad says all these good things are happening because they pay their taxes. I hope to pay my taxes when I grow up and start working. Have you paid your tax?
Pay your tax. It's your civic responsibility. It's your duty. It's the law.
You're welcome to my final segment with the Managing Director of the Lagos State Waterways Agency, a mechanical engineer, former oil industry executive, and now runs this Waterways Infrastructure and Regulatory Agency. That's not the name, but that's what they do. So, Mr. Marino, I have some limited understanding of transportation, and you alluded to the issue around intermodal agencies. So one of the things I wonder about is, I know there is LAMATA, there is LASWA, there is the Ministry of Transportation, and there's the Ministry of Works. And if we're talking about integration in planning and in delivery and service quality, how do you achieve integration of all of this?
Well, Lagos State has a transport family.
Okay.
The ministry itself is the nerve center of it. LAMATA is the strategic planner. There's still LAG Boss. There's now LAG Ferry as well within the same family. And yes, you have the Ministry of Works. So there are regular integration and meetings. And there is a strategic master plan for the Metropolis of Lagos.
Okay.
Now, the Waterways plugs itself into it. The LAG Bus plugs itself into it. LAG Ferry will plug itself into it. And like I said, the ministry sits to oversee that integration as it goes ahead. Now, between the Ministry of Works and the Ministry of Transportation, the building of our terminals and all those things are done and are supervised by Works. Okay. Once we have the design and we set the design in motion, Works helps to see it to fruition. As the strategic master plan goes by LAMATA and the other agencies with the Ministry of Transportation, everybody puts and plugs in to that main master plan that we have for the Metropolis of Lagos. Okay. So if you see, ultimately, there are places like Mile 2, for instance, that ultimately would have all three modes of transport meet. That's the light rail, the water transport, and the bus network. Coming forward to places like Ikorodu, you'll have two modes, water transport and road transport. Oworonshoki, water transport, road transport. So to each of those terminals and jetties that we have within walking distance, either a bus stop or some other means of transport to take you away. So the transition between each mode of transportation is being carefully planned and looked at. So there is a strategic master plan, and it's a futuristic strategic master plan, and everybody plugs into that master plan.
And that addresses partially my next question, last question, which was, what's the future for waterways transportation in Lagos State?
I think the future, our capacity is still limitless. Like I said, if I look like places like Holland, where they have about 30% of their transport being via their waterways, they carry a lot of cargo through their waterways. And ultimately, like I said, there must be more transition of actually moving heavier goods through the waterways and do the last mile by road. That would enable the roads network to be freer. The roads are already congested, the waterways is not, and there's always room in the waterways. And like I said, when we're thinking environment-wise as well, the waterways, barges and coal last much longer than you have for trucks, so even turnaround maintenance where the waterways is better, less fuel impact on the environment, it's greener, it's quicker. Between Ikorodu to the island is 25 minutes. Between the island to Apapa is about 10-15 minutes. Between the island to the Ojo area by boat is about 30 minutes. So you can travel within the waterways of Lagos at a faster rate, healthier rate, and cleaner on the waterways.
And cheaper.
Relatively. But it's on the time save that you have to look at. Because most of my customers who go via from Ikorodu to the island will tell you, if you leave your office at 6, you are home by 6:30. And I think that speaks for itself.
That's huge. Thank you very much for coming.
My real pleasure.
We'll be right back.
Who knows Abi better thing? Abi who no like better thing? All these fine things where they see so. Now money government they take do now. Abi, I think it's like, I mean, excuse me, I dey pay my tax. I dey do it, I dey pay my tax. Say you don't pay your own tax. If you pay your tax, I pay. Oh.
Pay your tax. It's your civic responsibility. It's your duty. It's the law.
That was a very enlightening conversation on the critical importance of waterways as a means of transportation, as a means of cost savings and efficiency, as a means of the cost of reducing business, improving lifestyles, improving the environment. and making for greater economic efficiency in our economy. It's an error. It's sad that we have not till now leveraged appropriately the possibilities of water transportation. But now the Lagos State government and its Waterways Authority is trying its best to ensure we do that. We hope that politics and the interactions or the controversies involving waterways transportation is downplayed, and pragmatism and the needs of the people is allowed to dictate how the sector evolves. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time.